Hey guys, so I don't have a lot of time to record right now, which is why I'm using the old-fashioned iPhone handheld setup instead of my usual camera. But I did give an out-of-theater reaction to Love Lies Bleeding, and I wanted to give my thoughts a little bit more in depth on that film. So here we are. This film comes to us from Rose Glass, who last did Saint Maud, a horror film that I thought was quite decent. A little bit of a mixed bag, too much of a slow burn, but man, you can tell she comes from a horror background based on her work in Love Lies Bleeding, because this is an erotic thriller type of film, but it has some very horrific undertones, and there are some gruesome sequences. We follow Lou, played by Kristen Stewart. Very underrated actress. I can't believe how much hate I still see for her over Twilight and other projects like that. When she's given the opportunity to shine, she really does. But Lou works at a gym and she meets a bodybuilder played by Katie O'Brien. These two characters form a romantic relationship, but before long they get dragged into the criminal underworld that is run by Lou's father, who's played by Ed Harris, another great actor, and this was an awesome role for him. I wish we got more of him. He does a lot of weird, quirky things, some stuff with beetles. You know, a lot of villains in movies like this, they have these weird quirks that are never explained, so I wish we got more depth from his character. I thought eventually we were going to learn more about the world that he's involved in, but it was very surface level, and that was a little bit disappointing to me. In many ways, this is just kind of the better version of the story that we got in the film from Ethan Coen earlier this year, Drive Away Dolls. Now, it's very different in tone. It's much darker and much more serious and gritty, of course, but in terms of having a similar and simple storyline, it does kind of go down the same route. Now, on technicality, this movie is great. I think the cinematography is awesome. The soundtrack is great, very 80s, and this is set in the 80s, so it should feel that way. It's also very grungy, and I mean, like, the characters look like they haven't showered in at least a week, and there's a lot of attention to detail that just works so well here. So it's a shame for me to say that a lot of my problems exist in the third act, which goes for a couple of really big swings and things that I just felt were very contrived. It's going to be almost impossible to talk about these issues without spoiling the film, so I'm going to say this. It's decent, it's solid all around, and I just want you to go in knowing that for me and for a lot of other people, it goes off the rails in the third act with some things that are interesting, but they just didn't work for me. That's also the point in the film where things become super complicated and they kind of abandon the simple approach that I think made the first two acts so effective. But in terms of tone, in terms of character intrigue, I think they did a great job at setting things up. And, you know, the ending doesn't ruin it. There are plenty of movies out there that start really strong and then the ending just absolutely ruins it. This is not the case. I just think there are a few things they could have changed and tweaked so that it makes more sense and it doesn't feel like things are just happening because the writers want them to happen, because characters act incompetent and do things out of impulse that they probably wouldn't do in real life. But I have to say, it was just nice to sit down and watch a film that I can actually speak mostly positively about, because Dune Part 2 is the only other film this entire year that I've had that to say about. I'm going to give Love Lies Bleeding 3 out of 5 stars. It's definitely a solid one. Check it out if you're just looking for something to see this week, and I guarantee you it is better than every other option with the exception of Dune Part 2. As always, be sure to let me know in the comments if you have seen it, what you think of this film, and what do you think of that controversial ending. Absolutely hit that like button and subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.